The last lesson we looked at how we can build a table, and we introduced how we can add some styling. So actually customizing the way that HTML content is output within the web page. So not all tables have to look the same way when we add in attributes. And this is the exciting part of web design, because this allows you to use attributes in order to add your own spin, look, and feel to the content of your output in your web page. So we saw that we can add in a width of 100%. We can also do things, so we can chain these styles together by the semicolon here, and I can do something like a border, so one pick border. I'm going to make that border solid black. So this is all within that same property. And we see that right away we get this border around there, so it makes a little bit more sense there. We can tell that this is the contents of that table. We can also add in styling, and the cool thing about attributes is you can add them to any one of your elements. So if I wanted to add it up here, I can add that same styling within the row here, and we don't actually, so when I save this, just wanted to illustrate what this is going to look like. So we actually don't see any change there, and that's because the row itself, you can't set a width of 100% on the row, doesn't make sense. And border of one pick solid black, again, the row is this whole thing over here, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do it 100%. So you'd have to cut that back and only apply styling that actually really makes sense. And typically for something like this, you would be applying that styling on the actual active cell. So we see here that the first name gets that, we see that the last name gets it, and so on. And now we see that we're able to add in individual styling for those individual elements. We can update that and change the look and feel. But the downside of what we're doing is that we're adding a whole ton of code in here, and really bad practice to add those style attributes, even though it's good to try out styling and try out all these different values here and make some updates, like you want maybe thicker borders. You can really easily play around with this and make some updates to it and see how they turn out and how they look and so on. So you can see that there are a bunch of updates we can do here. Do something like so solid. So there's a lot of different options, but the downside is that we've got to repeat this, paste it over and over again if we're applying it for each and every single element, which is just, it's very time consuming, very confusing, and if you want to make an update, you've got a lot of code and a lot of attributes to update. So if I want to update these table headers, I don't like black, I want to get blue, it's going to be really difficult because I've got to go through every single one. And this is why having styling for the page, on-page styling, as well as CSS is super helpful within this case. So let's jump back into our web page and let's look at how we can style every one of these elements here. So let's go up into the top of the page, and we're going to create a brand new tag called style. So open and close that style tag. So this is CSS, cascading style sheets, and essentially this gives us the ability to patch into any one of our elements or a whole group of elements and actually make some changes to those elements. And with styling, we've got a number of ways to select these elements from our web page. So we see that we've got just a whole bunch of content here, and we saw in the previously how we can add them as style attributes to every single one of these elements, but not really efficient. So let's look at our heading 2, and let's make a selection of all of our heading 2s. So H2, curly bracket, and now all we need to do is specify the properties that we want to place, that we want H2 to hold, and how we want it to look like. So we saw that we used border before, so let's use that one again. So one pick solid red, save that, go back out to our web page, refresh it, and now we see that all of our H2s now have the same property. So basically what we've done is we've taken our HTML code, we've found a way to pick out the different elements, then have them represented and be able to apply something to those. So you're probably looking at this and saying, okay, well, what if some of these H2s, I don't want to have this border, I don't want to have this color, I don't want to have these properties too. And this is where styling gives us a few other additional options. So one of the things that we saw earlier is that we can ID different elements. And with IDs, we can't have multiple elements with the same ID. Not a good idea. But with IDs, we're really able to specify that for birds, maybe I want some kind of specific background color for just this one particular element within the web page. So let's select out birds, same way as we did our hyperlink. So the hash there, the name of or the ID of the element, and now we're selected birds. Let's do a background color, so we can do background color, and let's pick a color for the background. Save that, go back out to the page, refresh it, and there we go. So this one, we were able to pick it out from all the other elements using the ID and apply some styling to it. And this way, we could have just as easily gone over here and done style as an attribute and added the background color. So this would work the same way, but best practice usually is to keep all of your styling in one area within your HTML code so that you can have it more readable whenever you need to make updates and so on. So much better way of representing and updating your styling of your page. So we saw how we can select out different elements. We can even do something where we can do the list items and really easily update those. Go back up here, we see all of our list items now have that red border and so on. So all we need to do is select the tag name and we can apply styling to it and select it out from our content. So one of the problems that you're probably thinking of, well, you know, you can select out these tags, we can select out one individual element within our page, but what happens if I've got some paragraphs where I want to add in some content, some styling to, and maybe I've got an H2 here, I want to apply that same styling. So how do I select those? I want to have it happen multiple times within the web page. Maybe I want to highlight it or something like that, and I can't find it, I can't pick it out between the tags and between the IDs. And there's one other way to select and add in representation for the elements, and those are classes. So we add in another attribute and we do class. So maybe we'll do something like highlight. So always try to keep your names meaningful. So if I want to highlight that and I want to highlight my dogs here, and then just within here I want to highlight some content as well. So I'll show you how to do that as well. But for now, let's just highlight several different tags. And with highlight, so we do for classes, it's a dot in order to represent those classes. And we're going to do the same one here as we did background color. And this time let's do background color yellow. Let's go back out, refresh it, and we can see that we can highlight anything with the attribute, the class of highlight, and it highlights. But what if we want to highlight maybe a few words, but we don't want to change the way our output of our HTML is being represented? So we want to just inline something, highlight a few words here or there, and we don't want to highlight the whole element. We don't want to create a paragraph to wrap around it and so on. So there is a solution for that within HTML. I'm going to show you how to do that in the upcoming lesson.